Mindsanity was able to win the event today, but we still have the second place that we need to find out who comes in second. So Fnatic is going up against the Crowing Chickens, the loser of the winners match against the winner of the losers match, and Abathur is banned right away. So this is actually one of the first games on Cursed Hollow where we are not going to see Abathur. The Crowing Chickens with the Illidan ban. Now, Mindsanity picked every time Karazhan first. How is Fnatic going to react, though? Oh, okay, they basically just simply copy Mindsanity right now. Instead of saying, like, well, these guys just won against us. They definitely did something right. So, boys, you know what? We're going to pick Karazhan immediately. So, that's exactly what they do. And the Crowing Chickens, how are they going to react here? By the way, with the Crowing Chickens also not being able to rely on Abathur anymore, we're not going to see that Abathur Tracer play that they showed on several maps. So with Fnatic banning the hero out on this map, they already made sure that Greymane can't be copied. So a lot of the strategies that have really been centered around Abathur on Cursed Hollow, or for example Battlefield of Eternity, are now all of a sudden not possible in the series anymore. We're still at Meta Madness, which means that the 5 heroes that you see listed at the top are community banned, and every hero that is banned in the drafts for this series are of course banned for the entire best of 3 and not only for the upcoming map. Li Ming in this case now could go into that Zagara. Fnatic is looking very much like they're drafting a My Insanity draft at this point. The ATC was already picked away, which is still of course one of the heroes that Breeze probably likes the most. But I'm a bit curious to see how Fnatic is going to draft this. Are they just going to stick with what My Insanity just showed them? Or are they switching it up a bit? Because so far that's definitely a bit of a My Insanity style. But they've shown some crazy plays. I mean, we've seen a Nidus network here today even. So that's also possible, I suppose. Which was quite fun, actually, if you think about it. I mean, it was more of a push Zagara build than of a teamfight Zagara build. And it worked really well in the end. So Fnatic has shown some fun games there for sure. But let's see how they're gonna play it this time. They are hovering over that Zagara for a long time, but so far they haven't locked that in. And okay, they switch it around and are like, alright, you know what, we're going to stick with our guns. Enuburak, Li Ming it is. So 2 of the heroes that they already showed in the last game. And the Crowing Chickens, they could still make second place here. What are they gonna ban out? There is a chance that we're just going to simply see them ban out some extra damage. I mean, we still have Sonya allowed, we have Thrall allowed, so if you want to make sure that you're not getting Thrall flanked, for example, they could ban that out. ETC, of course, when Sundering comes into play, has a much harder time to get his mosh pit in, but we already have interrupts on Enuburak and Li Ming, so Fnatic doesn't necessarily have to go for it. But an Enuburak that is being played is usually pretty happy about any kind of frontline pressure. And Fnatic already played Enuburak and Arthas the last time that they played on this map, so they could do something similar here again. But yeah, the Crying Chickens for now, it's actually pretty tricky for them to ban something here. Because what are you going to go with? They go with the Sonya, so Fnatic could think about banning out Thrall, if that Sonya ban is confirmed, to make sure that there's no bruiser for the Crowing Chickens available. They still have the chance to go into any kind of additional frontliner that they could possibly run. So for example, they could simply go into Arthas again. They have still the Johanna available. Fnatic that is, so there's a lot of options. And the Crowing Chickens switched it around slightly. They go for the Thrall ban instead. Sundering is a decent option against them. And we could now see that Sonya ban for Fnatic. Or they go into a ban on a hero like Uther. You can ban supports out as well. Tyrael is another option. I mean, ETC Tyrael has been played. I would like that Uther a bit more than the Tyrael, but I could definitely see the reasoning behind an Tyrael ban. But I'm not 100% certain if they have to be too afraid of it. Greymane, of course, loves the Sanctification. Holy Ground can steal bosses away, but the Uther ban is solid, since it allows for Greymane to be bursted down faster, since he can't rely on the Divine Shield. ETC with the slide into Tyrande stun, it's scary, but it's also one of those things that you can dodge in the early game, and it loses a bit of its value later on. Tyrande, especially after Cleanse, of course, comes into play. Tyrande also with the interrupt potential against the tribute channels, which is another important part of this combo. But are they going to play this Tyrande solo? I kind of doubt it. Brightwing, maybe, as the additional hero. Oh! They still go for Tracer. Look at that. Yeah, now I'd say they definitely need another support. So Tracer is still being played here by the Crying Chickens. Okay, Fnatic, let's see. What are we going to see on their part? They could go into that Arthas again. They could go into Would I play Lunara against Tracer? Zagara is actually like a really solid choice. Zagara can put quite some pressure on the Envenomed Spines are going to be great on level 4. They have also the opportunity, of course, to simply try and drop a Hydralisk onto Tracer when she starts to go in. But yeah, Zagara would definitely be a good option. A lot of control as well, if you think about it. I mean, more Anubara can afterwards use his stuns. Another interrupt against ETC. Now, more not necessarily be the best thing against an ETC. You know, usually you want to get a little bit more value in simply interrupting him. But if you have to, then it's an option. And they go for the Tyrael pick. They were even thinking about banning him out for a moment. But Tyrael and Uborak, very aggressive front line, and also a lot of stuff that they can really use here. They can just like jump in deep. Karazim gets value out of having 2 melees to him, especially after 16 in the Circle of Life. Tyrael can try to steal bosses away. He can zone as well when the tributes spawn, so that he can use his Holy Ground here. And I would still expect a bribing. Yes, there it is. Okay, cool. So, solid draft for both teams. Bit of like a Tracer play here. I like that already. A double support and the front line for the Crying Chickens. Fnatic, on the other hand, running now with the Nubarak and Tyrael. And yeah, guys, with that, we're going into game number 1 on Cursed Hollow to find out which team is going to take the lead here. The first game in our last series of the day, the best of 3 between Fnatic and the Crying Chickens. And to the left side, we are seeing in blue Breeze and Nubarak for Fnatic, the Swedish team, with Quacknix on Liming, Wooby on Tyrael, Shrimpy on Zagara, and Smexy playing Karazim right now. To the right side of the map here on Cursed Hollow, it is again the Crying Chickens with Mopsy on ETC. We have Sphyxia on Greymane, Lunan on Brightwing, Zelia on Tracer, and Celium is playing Tyrande. So a double support combo for the red team. They're currently trying to interrupt tributes with Tyrande. They are also, of course, in a position where they need to keep somehow Tracer alive. There's no Tassadar that you can rely upon to get also like the extra life leech in or anything like that. So especially Sphyxia on Greymane is just one of those constants in the team that they always try to play as much as they can. Quacknix already up to the top here right now, trying to get some damage in, polymorphed, and Lunan is just like trying to make sure that there's not too much happening. By the way, Zelia on his money pick, a lot of money picks here by the way, I approve. So Smexy is stealing back the vision because Zelia is just like zipping around and takes that away. But map control is of course something that is always important, so they are currently attempting to make sure that they don't lose that too fast. The bot lane is in an interesting spot because both of those are basically waiting to see what they can do here. But it's Mopsio who loses more hit points, still takes down the Creep Tumor, and we have a 3 versus 2 for now. So basically with the setup that the Crying Chickens are currently using, what you're trying to do is you use the Tyrande and also the ETC to roam the map and lock a few kills in. ETC uses the power slide first, stuns the target, makes it pretty easy for Tyrande to lock her own stun in, and then you can just simply drop a ton of damage. And that's one of the reasons why Fnatic will play it a bit safe, and as long as they don't really know where ETC and Tyrande are, will probably just move back a bit, which is exactly what Quacknix and Smexy at the top lane are currently doing. So they know that there's a high chance that there's someone waiting. I wouldn't be surprised if Quacknix at some point starts shooting missiles in those 2 pushes here. And as you can tell, they're just sitting tight now. They sit in experience range because they are saying like, well, we just need experience. We don't know where Tyrande and ETC are. They're somewhere. They're waiting for a kill. And Quacknix can just simply dodge, does exactly that. No stuns, nothing happening. So early game value, so far at least, for ETC Tyrande denied. But at some point you can't really dodge it too much. I mean, you have to go for those tribute fights eventually. It's also the 2-minute mark where we're seeing the Siege Giants coming in again. Yeah, and there's actually the pressure against Quacknix. A nice dodge on the other hand against the stun. And Tyrael is starting to make his way over to start with those Siege Giants that I've just been mentioning. The bot lane, this is where Shrimpy is starting to get some value now for with his Zagara and tries to push that in. Nice switch around, by the way. We've seen Wooby a lot on Zagara. In this case, he's going on the second melee though. And that puts, of course, Shrimpy then on Zagara. We're having at the same time Underking taken again. There's a vision claimed, Wooby on this way back, and the tribute spawning. And it's a little bit unfortunate for Fnatic that it spawns at top lane because they're the only team that went for the Siege Giants. They would have loved for the tribute to spawn at the bot lane. Then it would have been creating much more value for them. As is right now, they still have the push top, but it's easily depushed by the red team since they're all up at the top anyway to fight for the tribute. The level 4 talents are also in, which means that we have now with Triumph Raid also, in this case, the Unstable Anomaly taken. Celium claims it, as Zagara is simply pushing at the bot. So the whole idea for Fnatic was basically just to try and interrupt, which they weren't really too successful with. But with Shrimpy staying at the bottom of the map, he gets the entire wall now. So he's about to just claim the entire wall here before Greymane actually makes an appearance. And they even have Breeze to zone, so Sphyxy has to go the straight way through the gate before he can do anything else. So another great hit here, making sure that they get the towers down. That's slightly an experience that they now get. And also they open up the opportunity to snipe the well. And that is going to be really important. Because if another tribute spawns at the bot lane then, it makes it much harder for Team CC to do anything about it. And Breeze is very cautious here. He zones so that nobody can come in from the top to make sure that Shrimpy dies. And if Sphyxy goes in, he can immediately dive and make sure that he's putting the pressure on him too. So yeah, well is down. That was an important part. Already Xaylia a bit pressured back here as Breeze was moving in. But they have also a close level 7 talent. And yes, that's just now dropping. And that means that we have finally the cleanse on Charism. We're seeing Calamity. Double momentum. We are seeing the Angelic momentum and the Swarm momentum. So both being used here on Tyrael and Zagara for the extra pressure. And besides that, no 7 for the opponent. Brightwing is trying to get that at the top lane. Can't jump in yet, and that allows the zoning here. And Xaylia is trying to interrupt. There's the interrupt with the Owl, but it looks very much like Shrimpy is going to be able to get this one through. Or is he? Sphyxy jumps in and wants the kill. In comes ETC. The lockdown is not complete, though. Shrimpy healed thanks to Charism. Quacknix in the back is being blown to pieces, though. That's the end of Li Ming. Xaylia getting massive value currently with Tracer. And they will secure the tribute, which puts Fnatic in a very awkward spot, because that means what looked like they would get an easy tribute turns into a 2 tributes versus 0 tribute situation, and therefore potential curse on the third one. So we have Alpha Killer even, sorry, Wizened Duelist even taken. That's going to be an interesting talent for Greymane here, because he will be able to get sick damage out if he can stay alive. It's actually interesting to see the talent. Usually when we've seen it, we have mostly seen it on the Chinese teams or the Korean teams, and most of the times it happened, it was always when they played like a triple melee. It was more or less having at least Greymane plus 2 tanks at the front line, sometimes even a third. So they had some really very they had some setups where it was very difficult for Greymane to actually die, so that he could rely on getting value out of the talent. In this case now, it's much more riskier for them to do that, but they're trying to blow heroes like Quacknix, of course, out of the orbit before the fight even starts, which would be the ideal scenario for them. Mopsio, on the other hand, is currently with Celium here in the middle and trying to get that stun combo off. Zagara still pressuring the top. And I mean, Shrimpy is doing a solid amount of work here, as you can see. Sphyxy is just like standing far back, but now another tribute spawns, and apparently they just let it go. They could use Tyrande. Yeah, there's the stun. Last moment stun. Brightwing moving in. Okay, so it works for them. 9 versus 9 in levels. Everybody rotating. Small skirmishes here. Lunan goes in. Wooby doesn't even bother to go for any kind of ability. He just simply goes for an auto attack. But they need to somehow get close to it. And it's again, that could be the curse. The CC boys are making it happen. They get the curse against Fnatic. Fnatic hasn't taken a single tribute yet. And all of a sudden, we are seeing all lanes pushing heavily. Yeah, Zagara trying to solo handle the situation at the bot lane. And besides that, we have up to the top, Tyrael. But yeah, mid lane is being pressured. So far, not a lot of value yet for Team CC for the Growling Chickens, but they have the early level 10, and that alone is already a danger. Blink heal is there, so let's see how exactly they're going to play that. We're seeing also once more the Quantum Spike. We've seen that a few times earlier already on Xaylia. The extra damage with the 10% of their max hit points is going to put his damage count really high up. Wave of Force taken, there's the Maw. Also, of course, again, the Divine Palm, and we're seeing the Sanctification that is being dropped. I'm curious to see what Breeze is going to go for. I really like that Cocoon variation that they had in the last game, but I suppose with only a Tyrael this time, he needs to go for the Locust Swarm, and indeed he does. We are also seeing the stage dive for ETC, who does not even bother with a mosh pit, since there's way too many interrupts of the opponent, and also the Sanctification that can be used. Whoopi is getting stunned out. Here he really dive hard for him. And he is able to get at least some damage out of it. Stage dive being used at the bot lane. ETC moves in. And Greymane was already dead at the time, so they couldn't really save him here. But it's an interesting combo, considering that wherever ETC dives in, Lunan can follow with Brightwing. But it's great pressure that we see from Fnatic now. They're trying to stay as close and experienced as they can by simply pressuring in now too. Smexy should be able to dash out here. And as Tyrande is not with the rest of the team, they can't really make any kind of big play yet, at least that is. So Li Ming with 15,000k. We're seeing 13,000 for Tracer. Tracer at this point, highest damage dealer for the team, and she's very likely to actually explode in damage even more than, especially later on after the 16 talent hits. But for now, she's getting solid pressure, especially against the backline, and that's more or less her job. I mean, you want to be the one to pressure Zagara, you want to pressure also Li Ming if you can zip around. But Zelia has to be very careful here, since at this point, he heavily relies also on the heals from Lunan. We have both of the teams now, of course, waiting for another tribute to be spawning on the map. Level 13 talents are soon going to come into play. And when we're talking about the heroic for Tyrande, we also see here in this case, not with heal. Doesn't really have to. Double support allows you to go now into the Celestial Wrath, maybe even on 20, even though it's a bit less likely. But of course, Starfall is more or less a given on 10 if you're playing with a second support. Zelia is very likely to not make it here, and yeah, is trying to zip out, but that's the stun. Brightwing, can she save her? Yeah. Jesus, that hero is annoying. Tracer is just like all over the place. Zelia, of course, with a very solid Tracer on top of that. That makes it even worse for them. But now to the bot lane, we're still having ETC pushing it a bit. Jumps in or tries to. Zagara is dead even before ETC arrives. They're trying to go for a second kill. The more attempt that we saw for Shrimpy Knots, oh my god. That could be Quacknix's death, and nah, they're saving him and he goes for the tap. But still, 13 talents are ready by now, and after we already saw the pulse strike, now of course we have the bullet spray on top of it too. Overflowing lights, the ice block, we're seeing besides that now also groupies taken, and a nice situation for the red team who get the next tribute too. That's 4 tributes in a row that they've now been able to claim. Tyrael is trying to get the 13 talent for them up at the top lane, but yeah, Fnatic falls slightly behind in experience, which is definitely starting to become a bit worrisome. It's not crazy just yet, but Fnatic is starting to lose ground on the map. They lost a lot of the wells already, which takes lane sustain away from them. And now we have the 13 talent for them at least so that they can maybe make a bit of a move there. Already the movement speed again for Breeze, eradicating spines for the extra damage. They're starting to go in. Breeze is waiting for a stun, tries to cut Mopsy off. That didn't work. And we still have that. There's the 13. Illusionist after Calamity. So Quacknix is going to try and bring the pain. Lunan is doing what he's supposed to, though. Up at the top lane, trying to get some extra experience for his boys. And doing so far really well here. Besides that, let's take another quick look at what's currently going on around the tribute that is about to spawn here. Because that's another opportunity, of course, for Fnatic to not only win a fight, but maybe come back when it takes down, or when we are talking about the objective. They're trying to zone. Vision's also granted, as Zagara is trying to get that. Yeah, Tyrael is making his way to the bot lane. Brightwing doesn't jump in yet. Keep in mind ETC has stage dive. So he's going to try and jump into that fight when he's really needed. And Brightwing will follow. Brightwing already doing exactly that. Stage dive doesn't even have to be used just yet. So right now, Mopsio goes for the stage dive. Hits 2. And they're trying to jump in. They explode onto Tyrael. Wooby with the sanctification. They're trying to turn it around. There's the Starfall. That should be more or less negated. They move out of it and start to heal it up, but Wooby is low. And he's trying to go back to the well and tap real quickly before joining the fight again. But there's a stun against Zagara, and that could be the beginning of the end. The palm, not to... Oh, it's triggered. It's triggered, but so late. The Maw, on the other hand, is zoning more, if anything. And that is the death of Shrimpy. Yeah, he was very isolated here. Celium stun hits him, and that's an easy follow-up for ETC. And they get another tribute. Tribute number 5 in a row. The Crowing Chickens, they are the real deal. They've shown it several times. They qualified for DreamHack Valencia immediately in the first qualifier. It was very impressive. And even though against My Insanity early on today they fell, they are extremely strong when it comes to these situations. And they are just showing their class right now. We are seeing them without a single fort destroyed yet. They took another camp away, draining the ammunition of the back wall, and Zelia is just like zipping around the entire map trying to get his damage in. And he is by now also at 25,000, 26k on Greymane, 23k on Tyrande, on Li Ming. But they are starting to do some really solid work here, especially with, of course, that backline pressure that they execute thanks to Mopsio, thanks to Zelia on his Tracer. Those Tracer plays are really starting to work. And I mean, this is even a game without a Tacita. This is without an Abathur support that we oftentimes see with the hero. So Fnatic is a talent behind again and needs to be super careful about the next fight. They can't really do too much, but they have to somehow get the next tribute. And this is a disaster for them. This could be the second curse in a row. They can either fight with a talent disadvantage or accept that they're going to get cursed. That's the two choices that they have. Executioner is now taken for Greymane. Greymane doesn't really have too many stacks. He has 2 right now, so that means 4% additional extra damage. 6, my bad. And things are starting to get a bit scary. Locked and loaded once again, and there's the curse right there. And this time, there's probably going to be a lot more value for the team in red than before. So they're starting to push through the bot lane with a camp that they even took before. Brightwing is making the move to the top to make sure that he gets all of the experience there. They're not missing out a thing. They're not missing out on anything. Mid lane is, of course, heavily pressured. Down here, Mopsio is just making sure that this camp is safely escorted, babying it a little bit. Up to the top, Lunan with the experience. They're just taking a solid lead here, and their main goal is to get as close to 20 as they possibly can. And with Bothas also on the map, they have the opportunity to go for those. And that's actually what they're doing up at the top. And they have 2 globals. They have Mopsio with a global ability, and they have Brightwing, so they can just simply keep these heroes on the lanes. And if there's actually a fight happening up at the top, Mopsio can simply say, alright guys, I'm going to jump in for it. There's Brightwing already going straight into that fight. Breeze is there. Can they steal it away? They have Sanctification and they have the Holy Ground on Whoopi. They're now going to try. There's the move. Breeze is on the ground. In comes Whoopi. And this is going to be a boss for them. Whoopi steals the boss. Boss steals with Holy Ground 2016. Wow, pop gem. So there we have all of a sudden the palm is there. The boss is stolen. Can they get out now though? Now they have to try and get away. I mean, if you can get a tribute, then at least steal a few bosses away, right? So they're able to do that. And they are still 1.5 levels behind, but, I mean, like, how angry would you be on a scale from 1 to Idra if someone would just simply move in and deny all your hard work by simply just throwing that quick Holy Ground and saying, like, thank you guys very much, I'll take it from here. So 16 versus 16 talents at this point, and which we just saw, of course, and that is also resulting in another boss now taken at the bot lane, or at least the attempt, and I highly doubt that we're going to see the red team, the Crowing Chickens, fast enough to really do anything about it, especially with that stun happening here. Zelia can maybe, like, scratch Breeze a little bit, but that's already about it. So Circle of Life is now also ready. Fnatic is starting to gain some momentum again. They're still far behind. I mean, like, in experience, they're definitely, like, more than level behind. But it's still a position in where they are all of a sudden starting to take structures. They take experience. And they're now in a position where they might be able to close that gap even more and win one of those fights. As long as 20 isn't ready for their opponents, I mean, why not? ETC and Brightwing trying to go for extra experience. That's their job right now, and then they can start to jump in again. We're having down here to the bottom. Everybody else going straight in for the wall. ETC moving in from behind, has actually the vision, is stealing that away, but that is experience dropping more and more. Here's the ETC mosh pit. Already they are starting to go for Zagara, but this time we have the Sanctification on the ground. This is a decent fight for Fnatic so far. Shrimpy is under pressure, but Smexy has the palm still ready, and we have also the Wave of Force that they could use if they want to drop someone. Wave of Force still not used here. The palm neither. The boss is on the keep. This would be the first one if they can drop him. Oh, Greymane and Tyrande are both down, and all of a sudden Fnatic is going with full momentum towards the core even. It looks like they're going to try and end the game here. The boss goes through the keep, drops now also the tower, and they are going for the shields. Mopsio is not surviving this one. He's down, so is the boss, but does it really matter? Fnatic is just simply saying, like, guys, we got this. The Maw has hit, and that's enough time for them to drop the damage. Finally, Zelia is back, but it might not be enough. The palm is still ready, and this is the core getting further and further taken down by Fnatic. After the Crowing Chickens were running the game, it is Fnatic who claim victory and take their first map to make it a 1-0 lead here in the last best of 3 of the day. Game number 2. It is, again, Fnatic versus the Crowing Chickens, and up to the top, the heroes that are all banned out for the series. Now, Fnatic is banning out the Lost Vikings here, and we see a Karazim banned out. So the Crowing Chickens actually starting to think, listen up. With Rega banned, Tacita banned, that priority on Karazim is starting to get a little bit annoying. We're going to make sure that those guys are gone right away, so no more Karazim here. And this is a map where we've actually seen some crazy stuff happen the first time that these boys played. Because Fnatic has been playing some very interesting strategies here. Greymane already locked in, and Fnatic immediately picking up the ETC, which is still one of the priority picks for Fnatic as a team. They really, really like to play with the ETC, especially Breeze, of course, is one of his favorite warriors, and wouldn't be surprised to see that here. Now, globals on this map are very powerful. Normally we're talking about like, normally we talk about Falstad, but you could play ETC with a stage dive even. And if you go for an ETC to Ronda, that's interrupts against the channels on the altars, and you have the early roaming with a stun potential. So Fnatic, with that commitment, would of course also head into a double support. Or at least it would make the double support very likely, let's just put it like that. To run a solo support can be a problem, especially if you have no cleanse and your opponent is going to try and exploit that, which you can do with a lot of those. So, yeah, let's see for a moment how that's going to work out. So the Tirana is already taken. And at this point, the Crowing Chickens, how are they going to play this? They played a lot with Greymane. They really love to play their Tracer here. We have with House of Doom a very different map, though, where you can also try to play around your opponent a bit. Fnatic did that earlier by picking a Zagara and playing Nidus Network and going for more of a push build and really trying to push all of the lanes as much as they could. They had a Tyrael and even an Uther to channel through altars. And, ooh, CC, like the Crowing Chickens here with the Li Ming Sylvanas Greymane. I guess they got their damage locked down. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they ban out something along the lines of Zagara here, to be honest with you, especially if they watched the first series where Fnatic played that Nidus Network. I wouldn't really like to just try and constantly chase Fnatic down. If you don't ban Zagara, then I suppose you can ban something along the lines of a Lunara. Fnatic, on the other hand, they can either ban out support. I actually think that wouldn't be a bad choice, considering that they also have the next pick, so they could, for example, pick Brightwing, ban, I don't know, ban Morales or Uther and force something weird, or they just ban out some of the frontline heroes. I suppose that they themselves would probably be trying to look at another Anubarak here, so Johanna is actually banned out by them. Are we gonna see now the ban on the damage? Zul is being banned. Okay, I thought they would, if anything, ban out Zagara when it comes to wave clear. Okay. So that's taken. And Fnatic is still very likely to go for a second support. But I suppose for now, we could... we will see with another frontliner, I think. If you already ban out the Johanna, then it's very likely that you're trying to go into the second warrior. And that could then again be either, I suppose, the Sonya, who has not been banned out yet, or the Anubarak. And I would probably say we're rather going to see that Anubarak if they go for Zeratul than anything else. If they indeed go for that. A Zeratul is definitely not too shabby against the Li Ming against Sylvanas. But the Anubarak feels more Fnatic, to be honest with you. Like, Zeratul can really stay close to those, but I feel like Anubarak is probably the better choice for them. They buy themselves some time by picking the second support first, so they have Brightwing. Now they have another 20 seconds where they can think about what they're going to drop here. Apparently Zeratul and Anubarak are the two heroes that they decide between. Both of them are fine, but personally I would probably go into the Anubarak again. Nope, damage it is for now. Lunara could have seen her banned away by the Crowing Chickens, but nope. Lunara, Anubarak, good choices here. Zeratul, I suppose, as well. But Zeratul, I would be a bit afraid that he's being bursted down too fast by Greymane, and the silence hits him, that Li Ming is able to get the damage in. So I personally like the Anubarak here, especially since the Beatles, of course, also are going to block Li Ming's shots. But the Chickens, let's see how they are going to run that now. Because they still need a front line, and they could go Arthurs. They played with Stitches a few times earlier, so I suppose you could do that. Unless, of course, you want to go into that Tyrael comp. You go Tyrael, you maybe drop that Uther there. The problem for them is if they pick Uther, Fnatic picks Lunara. And then they're really in trouble. So, because I don't think that they have any chance of actually out-healing that in any way. So, the longer the fight lasts, the better it would be for Fnatic. So, I would be a bit afraid of that. If you want to try and counterplay that, there's the Stitches. They played it already earlier, and they seem to really like it. They have played something similar on Tomb of the Spider Queen, actually, earlier today. Against T89. Are they going to go into... Yeah, okay, Malfurion. Malfurion allows them to out-heal a lot of AoE damage, so if Fnatic starts to go into Lunara, they still have a chance to actually out-heal this. Because if you go into an Uther, you're screwed. Like, you have nothing that you can actually, like, play against it. So, yeah, that's currently... And I would like that. Shrimpy has probably been burning to show his Chromie skills, like, the entire day already. I would like the Chromie. They might play with us, but Shrimpy would probably be very happy if he gets an opportunity to play Chromie. And I guess they are currently... Are they lacking Shrimpy's hero? Shrimpy could be on to run up. They go for it. Chromie, my homie. Alright, so we have Chromie play, and this is going to be an interesting match for sure. I'm currently wondering who they are going to send on these heroes. Usually it's actually Shrimpy playing Toronto, but he's also the Chromie player in most cases, unless of course Quacknick switched it around and is stealing it away now. So guys, game number 2 with a bit of Chromie action, and I guess we're gonna jump right in.
Hello Agent 47, please report back to Braz's HQ for your next scene, thank you.
Well played, my friend, well played. Bucket Death, thank you very much for the support. Guys, thank you for tuning in as well, and we're gonna jump into game number 2 to find out who takes it, Fnatic or the Chickens. Game number 2 between Fnatic and the Chickens. To the left side of the map, we're currently seeing the blue team, Team CC, with Mopsio on Stitches. They just lost on Cursed Hollow after playing a very solid game initially. Sphyxia on Greymane, Zelia on Liming, and Celium on Sylvanas with a heal, this time in form of Malfurion, played by Lunan. And to the right side of the map, Fnatic, the Swedish team, with Breeze on ETC, Quacknix on Anubarak, Shrimpy on Chromie, we have Wooby on Tyrande, and Smexy on Brightwing. And yeah, well, Chromie is going to be interesting. Shrimpy has probably been asking to play the hero all day long, and already on 1 we are seeing him with a compounding ether, so trying to get that extra damage in for the Horde and for the Nexus. Alright, so no Alliance plebs right over here. Shrimpy already going for the nerd insults here. Not quite sure if you should really emphasize those. But well, we're having a pressure play at the bot lane, and in this case, that Sylvanas that they picked early really helps, but yeah. Stitches got deleted, and he got deleted so hard that I'm not even sure if he's going to respawn, because, well, he got basically just blown out of the game completely. So, that damage that we just saw there with ETC, Tyrande, and then also Shrimpy dropping the damage, that was pretty brutal. And I haven't really... I've never even probably really thought about it, but if you have a roaming squad that includes Chromie and you are able to just get some Tyrande extra damage in and then she hits, she's gonna hit hard. Here's all of a sudden dying all over the place. That's the kill against Malfurion here, and that's 2 kills against 0 in favor of Fnatic already. And they are just not stopping. At the bot lane, we're seeing Shrimpy going to play against Celium, and Celium actually putting a lot of pressure here in. And still Shrimpy trying to, of course, get his quest talent done as much as he can. Mid lane pressure as well. Mopsio and Zelia are there. And actually both of these teams are currently just like poking as much as they possibly can. The rotation down to the bottom, and if that hits, then Celium is in more than a bit of trouble. There's Breeze, but yeah, they can't really make that happen just now. So we have the first triple altar spawning. Now the first event and also the 5th event are all triple altars. And therefore you have to be a bit careful. This is also where Chromie is getting a lot of value. Sandblast now with the piercing sand, so she gets that in as well. Already the pressure against Mopsio once again. Down to the bottom, Celium trying to push to get an earlier level 4. The channels are about to be started, and let's see how Chromie is going to be able to help out here. She's actually the one channeling at this point. There's already a time trap being set. So they get 1. Each team is currently getting 1, and the one that's being fought over is the top right. So a bit closer to the wells on the side of the opponent, Fnatic in that case it is. And they're starting to go in. Elun's Grace helps with the interrupts. Already Mopsio being attacked again. Locked down by Malfurion with his roots here. And Wooby is trying to get some pressure in as Chromie also hits, but they're all very low. And that's the kill against Breeze. And Smexy is also taken down. This should be another one taken by them. There's the hit. 1 hit, 2 hits. That helps, of course, also Chromie now to get a bit of additional stacks for the talent. Again, a lockdown. Shrimpy with the damage, and it's really difficult for them to claim one of those altars. Shrimpy again with a hit. This time it didn't do too much, but look at this. They're just poking them to death. 2 heroes were already dead, but it doesn't matter. With Shrimpy and with Tyrande there, this is just constant interrupts. You're never being able to get a channel through like this. Down goes Stitches, and Shrimpy might be low as he is, but as long as he can poke there, he doesn't care. And now both of the teams, of course, yeah, there's the shots fired again, and that's good hits against the core. Schwimpio, of course, is getting a lot of pressure in now as well, since he can just simply gather additional stacks for his level 1 talent, so that he can increase his damage later on. Tyrande with the Piercing Owl is in a very similar position. Both of them are just getting one hit in after another. And that already makes me a little bit afraid for the chickens, to be honest. I mean, think about how the late game is going to look like when we're only fighting over one single shrine, and there is another kill, bam, in your face. The stun, and then Chromie is delivering the damage, and she can just interrupt from such a safe distance. Think about what happens when the range talent kicks in too. Then you have a Tyrande with the Owl, and you have the range talent on Chromie, and you just interrupt every single altar that's being fought over. Sphyxie is also moving away. It's 4 kills against 2. Like in a full-on 5 versus 5 team fight scenario, I actually think that it's going to look pretty solid for the chickens. But overall, that last fight was or at least like the tribute poke, sorry, not the tribute poke, like the altar poke, was pretty insane. So we have, for now, at least a bit more sustain. And I guess as long as we are seeing more and more sustain being dropped for the blue team, they will have a better chance to deal with that damage. That's one of the reasons why it surprises me a little bit that we are currently seeing that cleanse. But at least they can get away from that poke. Okay, nice hook against Max, and they take him down. I mean, there's currently two ways how you can look at it. You can either think, okay, we need a little bit more heal overall to deal with it, or we just simply go for the additional cleanse and try to make sure that nobody's getting bursted away. And that's the attempt that they're running for. Schwimpy is super low, and he's very likely to fall. Zelia gets the kill, and yeah, he was a bit too far out there. He went, by the way, on level 7 into the Möbius loop immediately, so the cost reduction and the reduced damage in this case. The cooldown reduction is extremely good if you want to interrupt, and that's something that they're going to try and do as much as they can. They're going for it as long as Chromie is there. That seems to be the idea. Whoopi, does he have an owl? He does, and he's using it, but now there's a double channel. And with a double channel, they have absolutely no chance of interrupting it. So they get the first shots fired, and then they will move over to the right. So shots already in on the core, 32 on both sides, and they can easily move to the left and take this one as well. Fnatic definitely has a very cool setup here, but in team fights, they have to be careful, since they're very much on the squishy side, and that was already proven a few times. It's not easy to keep Tyrande and Chromie alive against the heroes that are currently played by the chickens, and that is something that is going to make for an interesting late game here for sure. 28 versus 32 points on the course, and we're seeing both of the teams aiming for the 10. Here comes the time trap. Yeah, that actually helped Greymane more than it hurt him. So we are still seeing the teams poke as much as possible. Down to the bot lane, Celium is getting some experience for his own team. And up to the top, as you can see here, Smexy in position. Trying to actually move back even a bit, making sure that he's, first of all, staying on the safe side and waiting until he sees the rest of the opponent's team on the map again, which is the case right now in the mid lane. So immediately moving out again into XP range and making sure that he knows exactly what's happening there. Besides that, we already have down here Zelia versus Breeze. They're all just simply trying to keep also taps on those two camps, of course. The camps can really do solid damage, not only against the structures here once that they suicide into them, but also once that those structures are gone and the bell towers have been changing position and possession, and then they can just simply try and get the extra pressure in against the core itself. But we should see the next few altars actually called in very soon. Already, the heroic ability on Chromie is ready, of course, gets every single talent a little bit faster. We already have the Tranquility, we are seeing the Wave of Force, in this case is the Temporal Loop that's going to play an important role in the next few fights. They're all trying to just simply kill it out. And you can, of course, cleanse that, keep that in mind, there's another big thing about it. Like, you can cleanse that out, and that's one of the reasons why Malfurion actually went straight into it. Besides that, Blink Heal has been chosen, full-on shift build for Brightwing with the Peekaboo on top of it. Mosh Pit, and here's that altar in 11 seconds. They're all starting to move to the bot already, including Brightwing jumping in right now. Mopsio missing the hook here, not getting the early isolation kill. They're trying to make that commitment, but they have to commit hard. If they go in with a Wailing Arrow, they can make the commitment happen. Smexy is there, already Putrid Bile, and they move in. Lunan is eating some of the damage, but he's also starting the channel, and the Owl is on cooldown. Here comes Smexy with the interrupt. Zelia is a bit of trouble there, but gets healed and moves away, can once again poke, and nice hits fired here by Li Ming, pushing everybody back. Once more the shots from especially Chromie. Where's the Owl though? They might get another interrupt. Owl is already coming in play. Brightwing jumped in. Peekaboo grants the vision. Mopsio is low. They're trying to go go for the kill. Already the Wailing Arrow, but the altar has been channeled, and it's another couple of shots onto the core. 32 against 24, and the chickens are actually starting to gain some momentum. But a nice double stun, immediate split so that Breeze can't go for both of them. Lunan, this is the target that they want to take down, and they are able to make that work. Lunan eliminated. Here's the loop again. No cleanse, the hook, but it's still the kill. Doesn't matter. Without Malfurion to cleanse it out, they have absolutely no chance of saving Greymane. Nice kill. 6 kills against 4, but when it comes to the objective, when it comes to the points on the core, that's where the chickens excel right now. Fnatic building up some pressure, but at the top lane also Celium. He wants to make sure that they're getting some value out of Sylvana's trade, and Brightwing is the only one trying to fight against it. Up to the top lane here, solid pressure against it, disabling both, actually putting Smexy also under a lot of pressure in this case, as we down to the bottom of the map see more structures destroyed now by Fnatic. They're still poking here. They're still trying to get as much done as possible, of course, when it comes to that first bell tower. If they get the first one down, then they can start to snowball it maybe a bit. But for now, they just don't have the firepower that they really need to break through. And they have to rotate to not lose experience in the mid lane, for example. Especially since Sylvanas is always threatening to move straight up to the top lane. What we are currently seeing here taken down is just way too much. And if Sylvanas gets a bit of assistance from Li Ming, for example, that could even snowball more. But now the range has been taken. So now we're having actually the reaching through time. And that makes it so much easier for Chromie to get value on the interrupts. This time, only a single one on the map, again. And down at the bot lane, Quacknix with his Beetles is starting to pressure this back even more. The lane presence that they have is actually pretty solid. Hook against Breeze doesn't really do too much for them. They can just simply move away for now. We have Illusionist after Calamity also taken. We're seeing the Ice Block, which is going to be a great talent from Malfurion to keep himself alive a bit longer. But again, the poke, and they try to go for Mopsio. This time it doesn't work. The Starfall is already in play. Both of the teams are currently on 13 talents. They're jumping in. The Tranquility has been used. The Mosh Pit is in, but nobody dying just yet. Mopsio is about to fall. He's still alive though, and Putrid biles it away. Celium is low, so is Mopsio, so is Zelia, but they're still pressuring the opponent backwards. And that's the biggest thing right now. Get that poke in. Try to maybe drop the backline a little bit. Here comes Fixie, and he's down. Not immediately killed by Schwimpy and his poke, but it is not really of importance anymore. He is dead, and that's a 5 versus 4. And Schwimpy is just like that machine gun barrage from behind with his Chromie. Shot fired after shot fired, making sure that they get finally another channel through, and therefore at least a few points against the core of the opponent. 24 against 28. Close battle thus far. And Mopsio up in the mid lane, also nearly falling into the hands of ETC and Wooby's Tyrande again, and he can't really afford that. There's too much follow-up damage with Shrimpy again being present. And Shrimpy has by now, if you look at it, he's very close to actually completing his talent, and that will put even more damage into his hands. But here comes the Putrid Bile again. They're starting to put the pressure in, and another tower falls. This to the Sylvanas trade. Pressuring the backline though, but Breeze is low. No attempt at a follow-through though. The pokes. Like, I mean, Tyrande and Chromie here are super annoying. Like, from all the time, we see distance, stuns, damage, boom. And we have the extra talent now completed, quest talent, for Chromie. So that's going to be even more damage from here on out. And when we look at the damage, we already see her at 24,000. Not quite the top damage dealer in the game just yet, but Chromie is starting to get there. Sylvanas value, that's something that they still have to work for though. But again, the double stun. Here comes Breeze, and Celium is dead. They stay too long, and they pay the price. Stitches starts to move over. They're trying to make sure that at least Fixie survives. Brightwing jumped in with the polymorph, but can they get the double stuns? Fixie still on the run, is able to escape, and the damage points on Chromie don't hit. Good hook from Opsio. The problem is they don't have anything to really isolate him. Without Lunan dropping the immediate roots onto the ground, they just can't hold the target long enough for anybody to capitalize on it. And even that is always a bit of an iffy move and not quite as accurate as just simply going for a stun. So Shrimpy, once again, just like running around with his little gnome there, getting another shot in, and 28k against 31 show pretty much already what kind of output we're talking here. It is the 5th altar spawn, and that means 3 altars again on the map. Bot lane, top lane. That's what we're seeing right now, and both of the teams are going to aim for it. We have the early talent again for Chromie here on level 15. She's already able to pick one. Shrimpy actually doesn't even do that. We're seeing at the bot lane, currently the fight raging, and that's 4 heroes that are here. But Li Ming is trying to take the one up here at the top. Zelia is not getting that. There's the stun. Not 100% certain what that was all about. They are giving 2 up. It's 24 points versus 24 points right now. Shots fired from the bot lane, that's at least helping. But now the counterpart is happening as well, and that means that we have 20 versus 20. So, not 100% certain what exactly we were just witnessing here, but basically what happened is, I guess they thought that Li Ming was able to simply get the channel through. I just don't know. I would think that against the Tyrande and also Chromie. So what we just saw was them just simply going straight for the top 2 and claiming them. Fnatic now equalizing the score on this. There's a good route against Breeze. Oh my god, that's a great kill for them. Nice kill by the chickens. And Fnatic a bit on the back foot here. And now the momentum with Tyrande. Now we're talking. Starfall is, in this case, the best thing that they can do. Dropping that early, making sure that they have to retreat. And of course, again, the barrage of Schwimpy's Chromie. Shot after shot after shot. Pulled in. And from the safety of the fort, they can make that work. Now on 16, we're also seeing the shifting sands. And I mean, that alone is also incredible damage. Sphyxy is in this case actually low. He tries to go for Schwimpy. And we already have Quacknix moving back on as a Nuburak. But again, the shots, and Sphyxy is starting to get lower and lower on Greymane. And the problem really is that if he doesn't have enough hit points to go deep, he is not really of too much use to the team. He needs to be able to jump in and get the pressure done, and that's just simply not working for Nemesis. Tenacious routes have been taken to make it a bit easier to combo with Stitches, who has now Fishing Hook available as well. Talking about the damage output, we are currently looking at Chromie with 33,000. Li Ming still able to get a few more numbers in here. But if you look at siege damage, for example, we still have both of the heroes on roughly the same level. But so far, Sylvanas has not really allowed the blue team to take any of the bell towers down. If they get a few of the bell towers, it would be great for them. But for now, we are seeing 2 more altars spawning, and both teams are still fighting for position. It's such a close game right now. It is such a close game. But the fights here, poke from all sides, and of course Chromie always in the back, trying to make sure that nobody even gets close. Here comes Mopsio, goes in with a quick move with his Putrid Bile. Breeze needs to be careful. They're lacking lockdown. They only have the Tenacious Roots, and they also are placed down by Malfurion, but it's just not enough to really capitalize on it yet. This could be a potential kill. Sphyxy is low. Here's again the hook, and once more dodge. But everybody is low for the crowing chickens. Here comes the Tranquility. The Wailing Arrow is in as well, and they're trying to engage. But everyone moves away, and Lunan is, of course, losing his ult here. But he healed everybody up. There comes the immediate deny against the Mosh Pit. Well done by Mopsio, but the Starfall is too strong. Greatly put down, well placed here. And we have the kill against Greymane, and that could be the beginning of the end. Lunan is attacked. Quacknix should be able to drop him here if he goes deep. That's the miss, but the lockdown, and Malfurion is bye-bye. Yeah, well, we have at least for now Quacknix attacked. Stun missing, but they're trying to go for Mopsio, and yeah, that's just too much. Nice dodge, good attempt, trying to run away here even, but they're just simply diving the fort, and it doesn't matter even more. The hook was decent, but that was just a bit too much. So now Fnatic with the shots against the core again, 12 versus 20, and they are starting to claim the first bell towers here. Zelia is eating the damage of Chromie, who's just firing away 6 days to Sunday. In damage output, we have 49,000 now for Chromie against 47,000 that Li Ming currently has. The bell tower has fallen too. The momentum starts to really shift from the early to the late game here in favor of Team Fnatic. It's very well done here so far. Up to the top lane, we're currently seeing Breeze starting to move in as well. He's just trying to push this back as far as he can, gets a bit of extra experience. They're currently looking if they can maybe even go for boss, if they can set up flank up somewhere. But with Stitches down, they simply decide to go for boss instead. Especially, of course, since 2 heroes are currently at the bot lane trying to take back the bell tower. They know that they can do it. That's an additional 4 points if they get those in. And I mean, there's no reason right now why it shouldn't work. But that boss hits like a truck. And Quacknix is experiencing this firsthand. Oh, Li Ming. I mean, there wasn't even a ragdoll. When Chromie was done with Li Ming, there wasn't even a ragdoll on the map anymore. She just got completely annihilated. 4 more shots hit, and that is now the core down to 8. Li Ming is down, 12 kills against 5. Job well done. Oh, there's the hook against the Gnomi, and the kill is in. Maybe the beginning of a bit of a comeback. Already we are seeing Sphyxy jumping in, getting zoned out, though great Starfall. I have to actually give some credit to Whoopi here. The Starfalls that we've seen so far in the game were absolutely spot on. In 3 cases already, the Starfalls were either completely saving them or like guaranteeing them kills against important heroes like Greymane. So Whoopi played an absolutely fantastic match here. And they are extremely close to level 20 now, which would give them a talent advantage, of course. Breeze is going deep. Mopsio is annihilated. And guys, this is looking really, really bad now. As the mosh pit, all they need to do is get 1 more kill in, and yes, they will. They are going to take down Malfurion here, at least they should. Breeze actually like messing his abilities up a little bit, but the owl is there, and it's a double owl. The rewind hits, and it hits hard. Breeze up to the top against Zelia. Smexy still alive. They're dashing away. They get the stuns in. Li Ming is down. 16 kills. Yes, Greymane dies too, and Brightwing does though as well. But this is a team wipe, and with that, they can just simply go for another bell tower before they move down to the bottom and take another one. So right now, as you can see, 52,000 against 55,000 damage when we're talking Chromie, when we're talking also Sylvanas and Li Ming. What a fantastic play here once again by Fnatic. Great draft for them, and a really good start from the opponent actually. So we had a bit of momentum going for the chickens, but then later on they were just not able to really make it happen. Shrimpy is trying to pressure the bot lane as well. He gets the wave clear in, of course, with his dragon here. Goes for the Dragon's Breath and gets a few more of those in. The bell tower at the top lane has been claimed, so now we're just simply seeing Chromie starting to move to the channel, and that will drop the core down to 2% or 2 points. And as soon as that happens, it basically means that kind of anything that you do on the map is going to win you the game. You take 1 more camp. Oh, it's actually 3, sorry. I thought they were already at 6. But it's, yeah, it's still true. Like, if you get the boss, you win. If you get one of the camps and escort it, if you baby it, you win. And that's, of course, what they're trying to rely upon right now. Shrimpy now is even more damage since he went into the past and future me, and that is a sick talent when we're talking like damage output. But we also have a triple rewind. That's why we saw the double owl come into play a little bit earlier already. 20 versus 20 on the other hand now. So at this point we're seeing, besides the Hunter's Blunderbuss, also the Relentless Predator. There are 20 talents on both sides. And guys, these Storm Shields that we could see, yeah, that could make all the difference, but I doubt it. Lunan with the Ice Block attempt to save himself. Already Celium is about to fall. He gets away somehow, but I don't think that Mopsio is going to be this lucky. It's another bell tower that has just been claimed, and yeah, Mopsio, if he does... Oh my god, the mosh pit over here against Li Ming, and that's of course the end of her. Mopsio with the hook, the kill against Greymane. Chromie is going completely nuts. They even dive now in way too deep, of course, but it doesn't matter. They can afford it. Stitches has fallen, and they are just bursting everyone away. Celium, he knows that it's over. They can move into the... They can just simply grab an altar. They can escort the camp. They can go simply into the middle and also claim another one of the bell towers. No matter what they do, Fnatic, they've taken it here. Top damage dealer in the game is currently Chromie, and it is getting pretty nasty. Yes, this is going to be it. A quick channel is all that they need. Or they could simply just go for the one here in the middle, but the wall is still intact, so they just send heroes, or they could send heroes to both. Brightwing is already there. The escort at the bottom, no matter what happens, they are going to take it. This, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be another victory for Fnatic, taking it with a 2-0 against the Chickens here, and coming in second place at Meta Madness 2. Congratulations, and well played.